It's the Church Solutions Podcast, and this is episode number 524. And my name is Phil Thompson. My co host, Steve Lacey, is on vacation, so he's enjoying himself with his family, which just gets bigger and bigger. He has a bunch of grandkids now. So it's kind of fun to hear the stories of because the grandkids are over his house quite a bit, and they're over in Texas somewhere. Is on a Texas beach somewhere, I think around Austin or Galveston or something like that. So anyhow, Steve's not here, but you got me, and we've got a great guest today. Let me say right off the bat that this Church Solutions podcast is brought to you by streamingchurch.tv, and that's us. We have been doing streaming video for churches for a long time, since 2009, and even before that, we were doing things with other things, church management stuff and some social stuff and website back in 2001. It all started with Steve. And so it's coming up on 25 years. Hard to believe. And I've been hanging around most of that time as well. So today, let's just jump into our podcast today. Our guest frequently shares her powerful testimony of resilience and transformation in faith. She's born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. She faced significant early life challenges. When she was 13, her mother survived being shot 5 times. And at 16, she became a teenage mother. But her faith and her determination really transformed her life. And she has successfully raised a son and also at the same time simultaneously pursuing an elite corporate career and an extensive higher education. She's got several degrees, and she's involved in ministry. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Angela Thomas to the Church Solutions Podcast. Dr. A, how are you today?
I am great. Thanks so much for having me, Phil. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's a little hot. We're based out of Tucson, Arizona, as a lot of our listeners know, and we've been dodging the hot temperatures for quite a while now, up until the last couple days, and so it's been around 100 degrees or so. But that's par for the course here in Tucson. We're out in the desert, and so that's par for the course. So anyhow, I'm going to probably call you Dr. A because that's what I saw on your website. And you've got a fascinating website. You've written a couple books, and we'll get into all that stuff here in a little bit. But really what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about today was digital ministry, because I noticed that you are doing a lot of things. And one of those things is using digital ministry to reach people, to disciple people. And so I want to talk a little bit about how your fascinating background, I mean, you got 4 degrees, I think. You've worked as a healthcare executive, university professor. You serve in your local church. How is this diverse background that you have, how's it shaped your perspective on what it means to really build the kingdom of God in I guess what I would say this modern digital age?
Yeah. Well, I don't think any of my background is by mistake. I believe that God has me traveling and has had me travel different spaces for different reasons and have different interests for different reasons. Because the Great Commission is to reach many disciples, make many disciples of many, many nations. And so if that's our charge, it isn't limited to our local community, though that's fine. But there are some of us who I believe God is calling to reach way outside of the bounds of a local four walls church, a local community, and leveraging the tools and technologies that continue to be developed to see how we can spread more of the gospel and make more disciples. And so I just always feel like I've had an interest in how to do cool things even since a kid. I was born in 1979, so I remember the days where typing class was a thing and the manual typewriter was the thing. And so I remember being in love with typing and asking my parents for a typewriter. I remember typing my math homework. So I've always kind of been that, how do we use new things? Typewriter being new is hilarious to me. But how do we use new things to do great things? So I would say
Yeah.
That
Wow.
probably is the root there, Phil.
That's interesting. I'm a little bit older than you. I was born in 1958, and I did take typing in high school, and I got up to a grand total of like 35 words a minute, I think. And it was the old typers, you know. But I really, you know, now that I've been doing computer stuff, I really wish I would have worked harder with the typing because as soon as I got out of that class, I like, so now I use three or four fingers and that's it. Uh, and lots of mistakes. But my wife actually is a very good typist. Whatever, she used to be a secretary for a law firm, so she's really quick and fast. But anyhow, let me ask you this question, and I, I want to make sure it's not misunderstood by our listeners or even by you. But you work with a lot of women in ministry, right?
It is.
Okay, and so when I ask this question, I mean, I don't want to imply that women are not tech savvy. Yeah, I don't want to imply that. Okay, but I have kind of found in my life, and maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong. It seems like women are a little more relational, or they lean more towards a relational side of things than us guys do. And so, do you find that women hesitate to get into the digital space that you're providing because they want to do more face to face? I mean, am I off the wall on this, or what's your thoughts on that?
No, you're not off the wall. I think it just presents differently in how we use technology as the relational bridge, if you would. So one thing women are all on, we're on social media. So that's technology right there.
Yes,
So
that's
we
true.
are used to opening up an Instagram app, a Facebook app, TikTok, whatever it is, and scrolling and keeping up to date with our friends or seeing what's happening with this, that, and the other, right? So how do you use that same habitual pattern? Because we spend a lot of time. We shop, we do all of that. We spend a lot of time in those platforms, but you can't stop there. Like they have to like know, like, and trust you. Like we have to know, like, and trust you. We want to get to know you. We want to open our hearts. We want you to open your heart. So how do you use that to also then foster spaces for that? So live, like women like to show up to live teaching where they feel like they could relate to the person teaching. We never like to feel like you're over there, I'm over here. We like to be brought in by your story. We like to be brought in by, oh, not just me, you too. Like we like those kind of things. So that's a way to translate relational things over technology. Another place we like to have chats. So we do leverage Zoom platforms for our chats where it's not just one talking head talking, but it's how do we engage too, because people have been engaging in a social media kind of platform in our community, um, but never get to talk to one another. So we try to find these other ways to use more technology so people can talk to each other. And then you do have to incorporate some face-to-face opportunities. So that's how you're right in that relational side of us, but it's not an either or. I think it's both and.
Mhm. And how long have you been doing the digital thing? Because I'm assuming that as the longer you've been doing it now, the easier. I mean, as you just said, women and people in general are much more apt to jump into it, I would think, than they were maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Well, 2020 changed everything, right?
Oh.
With the pandemic. But before that, I mean, do you notice a difference at all?
So I would say that's interesting. My journey with digital started when I started doing a like a 3 to 4 minute teaching segment for our church called Thoughtful Thursdays on our social media channels.
Okay.
And so just pre-recorded talking head right there. And but I would do it in a relatable way. So that's kind of my thing, is like easy to understand ways of teaching the Bible. So I would do it in an easy to understand way, almost always have some personal story. So I would think that's where technology really started for me. Then in the middle of that, so if that started in 2018 is when I started that. So then you get to the COVID side, and we have to, at this time I'm like director of our women's ministry and vice president of the board of our church, and so I'm helping with director of education, and because I'm in healthcare, I'm also kind of the voice of what's going on in the pandemic. So I helped to transition our entire congregation online and more digital. And one thing that we had in a face-to-face format as part of the women's ministry was something called Soul Connection, where so think Sunday school for women. And so we would sit in a circle and we'd go through a book and we, share. And so we moved that to Zoom. And it was there that just get it acclimated. How do you keep women relational and engaged on a Zoom platform? And so that was that. And at the same time, working with our pastor at the time on what it looks like to keep folks engaged as you're just talking to a computer and they're on the other side on a Facebook platform. So so I really started modeling super engagement in our chat for the congregation. So we ended up intentionally doing amens, hallelujahs, like super engagement to keep people engaged. I started modeling it and then taught others how to do that. So we intentionally made our streaming super engaging, and how he we would prompt him to do certain things to say drop it in the comments, just and how to do that. So then when I would teach Bible study, pitch hitting for him, I learned to do the same. And so if you fast forward to January of 2022 is when the Lord told me that I needed to begin to teach his daughters his word in an easy to understand way online once a week. And so by then I had all of the practice of going live on Facebook and all of that. And so I started a Facebook group called the Kingdom Building She Shed, where every Wednesday evening at 7, I will go live in that Facebook group and teach the Word of God for an hour. And that's where the She Shed kind of way of teaching kind of came to be. We do 3 tools. Each tool has a shed it and work it list. We do a where we see Jesus, so we can always see Jesus in whatever I teach. And then a deeper dive where I would give my notes, scriptures, those kind of things. And so begin to use that group. Well, how do you keep a group in a community engaged? And now posting things and posting little reminders, posting the notes, getting the email list together, all of that kind of came to be with that. And then in 2023, with some pastoral transition stuff, I became interim pastor and then lead pastor in 2024. And so I couldn't do She Shed anymore, and because I couldn't do both. Well, I'm still working full time as a healthcare executive, by the way, and all of this. So, but I still am doing the whole engage. We have a whole online congregation as well as face to face. So I have to make sure I'm still engaged in our online congregation. And so Bible studies became really a talk back Q&A, both online in the house. And so that never stopped. Like that muscle just kept getting stronger and stronger. And so when the Lord told me it was time to no longer be a lead pastor because I had to do more with my job, people just kept asking, can you go back to doing She Shed? I don't want to not have any teaching. And so that's how She Shed Ministries was born. And I knew by then, like I'm also this nerd that's always tapping into what's new in the tech world. So by then I knew I wanted to do a community, but different than Facebook group. I wanted to be able to do more than a Facebook group would offer. At this time, Facebook would delete your live videos like after 30 days, and wanted more control over that. Wanted to do some things with having questions of the day that women could respond to, and you can kind of go to designated spaces to that. Long story short, looked at school and the Circle platform, thought the Circle platform was the better platform to really do all that I wanted to do. And that's how we landed on having a She Shed community as part of She Shed Ministries. And so every day we do a question of the day, and the ladies, like they open up and they support one another. You see the discipleship happening every week. I teach live my She Shed teaching there. All of the replays are there. All of the sermons I've ever taught, all of the Bible studies I've ever taught, every Thoughtful Thursday I've ever done. So it's this vault that you can easily search. If you're going through something, you can search anxiety, or you can search this or that, and it'll come up and have additional reflection questions, have all of my notes, and so much more. So it's a community.
Yeah, wow, wow. There's a ministry my wife volunteers with. It sounds very similar to what you're doing in some ways. It's called Steady On,
Mm-hmm.
and Angie Bauman is the person that heads that up. We've actually had her on here a couple times, and it sounds very similar. I want to get back to this she shed thing.
Yeah.
You've got a book, right? And first of all, what is she shed? What is this? I mean, is this lingo that I don't know as an old white guy? I mean, what is this?
So it comes from having a shed in your backyard, and when a woman has a shed, we call it a she shed, like usually using it for gardening, that kind of stuff. But just so
Okay,
happens for me, I love to woodwork. I love to refinish things. I love a good tool belt. I will refinish my deck. I have refinished my kitchen cabinets. I've always been that girl. So, and I
my
love
wife
my
would love
shed.
you. My wife is totally into that. She would love you.
So
So,
I
so
love my shed, and that's what it came from, was like bridging this love of me making something old look really new, and realizing that's what Christ does for us. And so it's kind of this, that's where it comes
that's and do you have a book? Is there a book that's titled She
from.
Shed?
Yes, I have a book called, so I have two books. One is a more traditional memoir kind of book, but it's more on the leadership side. That's Bullets, Babies, and Boardrooms: Success
No.
Secrets of a Teenage Mother. And then there's a She Shed branded book, and that's called Shed It. And it's more a workbook style. And it's based off the very first four teachings I've ever done for She Shed, which I think are foundational for any woman. Knowing how God designed you to be, understanding how the enemy fools you into a counterfeit version of yourself, understanding how we approach relationships and the word of God through these foggy lenses. And so
Okay.
understanding cultural context and how our experiences kind of color the way we see the word of God, and appreciating that so we can look at it differently. And the game, which is all about spiritual warfare and understanding that before we got here, we were dropped into this game between light and dark, and what
Right.
that means when we're on Team God, and how the enemy doesn't really like that, but what protections we have, and the whole armor of God and all those kind of things. So
Okay.
it's the foundations, but it's workbook style, and it walks you through all of those things, and
Ah,
it's called
okay.
Shed It.
And working. I was going to say this at the end of the podcast here, but we'll just, since we're on it, let's talk about it now. So, where can people get this book?
On Amazon. Even they can go
Okay,
on
so just
Amazon.
Amazon, or they
Hmm.
could go. Can they go to your website and
They
find
can
it
go
as
to my
well?
website. They can find it as well. So AngelaDThomas.com. You can find it there. It will link you to Amazon to get
Okay,
it, unless you want an
good.
autographed version of
Ooh,
the Bullets, Babies, and Boardrooms, and then
okay.
you can get it
And,
separately.
and the bullets, babies, and boardrooms. I mean, that's obviously that ties in with your life. Your mother was shot 5 times.
She was. She was.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was a probation officer in Detroit,
Oh,
and one of her clients, she was going to write a recommendation that he go back to prison because he violated probation.
mm,
So he figured if he hired a hitman to, I know it sounds real Lifetime movie, but it's right. It is true. He hired a hitman to bump her off, then he wouldn't go back to prison. So in front of my grandparents' house, her parents' house, he shot her 5 times, December 8th, 1992. She lived to
wow.
survive. Her bedroom's on the other side of my wall. She's fine.
Okay.
But it was certainly a pivotal moment in our lives.
My goodness, that's terrible. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Let me get back to my original line of questioning here. So you're involved in leadership, obviously, pastoral leadership, the whole gamut. Um, how does what do you see as maybe the biggest structural or maybe strategic hurdle that local churches face today when they're trying to move to, streaming a service, to being more creative, to being more of a true digital discipleship thing that we've been talking about here? What kind of a hurdle do you see that they run across?
Oh, There's so many. Gosh. Okay. So one is trying to one it's hard, period, whether just take digital out. It's difficult to create the experience that everybody is looking for. So you've got all these different ways of learning, and I'm a teacher educator as well, so you got all these different ways of learning and experiences of worship and styles that you're trying to make sure you quote unquote appeal to. So then you layer into that the digital piece. So the hurdle is, how do we make sure it's clear? Can they see it? Can they experience it? What's the right technology? What's the amount of time I spent with the production team alone as a pastor was a lot, between mics and camera shots and all of that. But then, how do you translate the experience and the power of God through the digital platform to your digital, to the people watching digitally?
Right. Right.
How do you effectively do that? How do you not leave them behind? And then I think some ministries just struggle with getting out of their own way and not being innovative enough in how to reach multiple people, and shying away and pushing away from technology as a means to help to do that. So some ministries correct the whole other way. We're just not going to do it. We're just going to be the local brick and mortar church, and that's just kind of it. And how, I just always go back to the Great Commission. Like, maybe the Lord just told you that's what you're supposed to do. So I don't want to argue with those folks, but I do think there's so much more opportunity to get to people who have made a decision for whatever reason. Maybe it's historic church hurt. Maybe it's because they're immobile. Maybe it's because there is no local church. Maybe sickness, whatever those reasons are. But how do we reach those folks and allow them to have an encounter with the Lord as well? And I think finding the right technologies and the right platforms that do that, I think, is the hurdle, is a huge hurdle. I think it's also layered with, there's just so many things. Do I do Riverside? Do I do Zoom? Do I do StreamYard? Do I do
Skype.
all the things?
Yeah.
And which camera is the best, and
Yeah.
which sound is best? Which
Overwhelming.
mic sound? There's just so much.
Yeah.
And I also think finances, being able to afford the different solutions that will
Mhm.
serve the congregation well and serve the gospel well, I think are hurdles depending on the size of the ministry.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I can certainly see that. I just remember when the pandemic hit, and we were already doing streaming video for a long time, and as a company, streamingchurch.tv, and all of a sudden, the pandemic hit, and it's like March 13th or something, and doors were getting shut, and I mean, I had pastors calling me left and right, and I just told one guy, I said, "You have a laptop with a camera?" Yeah. He said, "Yeah, I do." I said, "Put it on a pile of bricks and stand in front of it, look into the camera, and here's your streaming credentials with the account you just created with us." And boom, they were off and running. And but then, as you've just said, there's so many different options out there that I think it can be sometimes it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
And we've really tried to make it less overwhelming for people, but it's definitely challenging. Okay. Uh, Let me see here. We got a little bit of time left here. Um, so I mean, you are just an incredibly motivated person, it seems. You're doing so much stuff. So how do you manage between ministry, the executive life that you've got, your family? How do you balance that? And how do you avoid not just digital burnout, but also just burnout in general? I mean, you've got a lot, you're juggling a lot of things, it seems like.
It's a lot I'm juggling, Phil. I don't know that I do it well all the time. Let's just say that. But I really try to listen to the Lord and ask the Lord for strength, because um, there are so many times that I'm just like, something's got to give, Lord. And sometimes it is a season where He's just like, and give up this.
Mhm.
But other times he's like, no, I need you to keep pushing. And there are seasons in the calendar. Like right now, it's the season. I always talk about this April, May, June season because it just feels like everything increases in all three areas: work,
Mhm.
church, personal, like in the same season. And so balancing becomes very difficult in that season. And permission to not balance sometimes. So permission to not stay on top of social media postings for this, that, or the other, just so I can be sane at work. So just permission, and then um, leveraging technology to do things easier. So I do like that there are AI solutions to
Yeah.
making administrative tasks much easier nowadays. And so leveraging those technology solutions.
Let me
And
get your 2 cents on that.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
So AI, what do you think about it? I mean,
Oh boy.
I mean, that's opening, we're opening up a can here, but I never was, somebody asked me if somebody would have asked me 4 years ago, what AI is doing today, I never would have been able to answer that question accurately. So, I mean, you use it, so you do use some AI.
Okay.
Uh, do you have a policy at your church? I'm hearing a lot about this lately, that churches should have some kind of a policy on the use of AI. Do you guys have that?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
So how do I use AI? So speaking about she should. So a few things. So I have all of this content. So if you can imagine 3-4 years of thoughtful Thursdays and years of teaching, sermons, Bible studies, all the things. So I have all this content. And so I will use it to help me draft reflection questions. So I will upload my content, my voice, my transcript. I will use it to help me transcribe it. So can you just
Yeah.
transcribe what I said so that
Yeah.
I have it? And then we'll use it to help me with additional reflection questions or I look at them. I use it
Sure.
like an assistant just to make sure, yeah, those look good. That's my voice, or
Right.
I tweak it. I use it for promo generation. So when I'm about to, like, for my lesson tonight is called Uncalled. And so I'll use it to, once I've created that lesson, this is what this lesson is about, generate an image that kind of looks like this. This is kind of what I'm thinking. I want somebody who's kind of premature and raising their hand to volunteer for a thing. And so I'll iterate to get promo materials. I'll ask it to do that. I leverage uh, Opus clips to help me find clips for my teaching that will be good for promo, and it uses AI to do that. I don't just accept it. I usually, like, I'll take the transcript and ask another AI, hey, what might be some portions of this that might be good um, for marketing or stopping the scroll, and kind of try to clip something around that.
Yeah.
I'll ask it for hook ideas and things like that. And then I'll use like a platform called Later to schedule those things. And it uses AI to tell me what are some good times to schedule it. So
Wow.
I think I'll use it to, if I'm hosting YouTube, I'll use it to suggest a description of the video based on the transcript. So those are things that I think are real healthy ways to leverage
No,
technology.
no.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like you're using it in a great, just a perfect way. I mean,
Yeah.
it's more of an administrator for you, an assistant, and you obviously are looking it over and keeping an eye on it. You're not just going off and just,
Oh no, you don't want to just take what it. You don't.
yeah.
You don't want to do. You don't want to do that.
All right. Well, look, we're out of time here, but I've really enjoyed this. Dr. Angela Thomas has been our guest today on the Church Solutions podcast, and you can go to her website, angeladthomas.com. And so check out all the stuff you've got there. You could pick up the book. It's the She Shed book.
Shed it. Shed
I'm just
it.
not used to that word. I'm sorry. I've
It's
just
okay.
I've just I don't know. But anyhow, you can find that. You can find some other things too. The other one, Bullets, Babies, and Boardrooms. The success secrets from a teenage mother. It's been wonderful having you on. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Phil. It was lovely to talk to you. I
All right.
appreciate it.
Yeah, this has been fun. I'll stick around for a moment or
All
so.
right.
Folks, if you have not subscribed to the Church Solutions podcast, what are you waiting for? We have got well over 500 episodes up there, and we've covered a lot of ground. And our whole goal here at what we do is to help churches, help ministries. And so if we can help you in any way, please reach out to us. And we can always connect you up with Dr. Thomas as well. If you missed all that stuff, you can just go to streamingchurch.tv. And if you haven't subscribed to the Church Solutions podcast, feel free to do so and give us a rating if you want. And anywhere you get your podcast, the Church Solutions podcast, that should be there for you. I'm Phil Thompson. Steve Lacey will be back shortly. And so please take care of yourself and each other. And we will catch you again on another episode of the Church Solutions podcast.